What's up YouTube, Capital G here, got another awesome 4K deck profile for you guys to check out. And before I jump into all the Dark Magician goodness, I would like to tell you guys that I have made a playlist on my channel of all the 4K deck profiles. So if you guys ever miss one, or if you don't have the notification bell turned on, which I would recommend that you do, you can always go to my channel and check out that playlist. I think I said when I first started doing these that I was shooting for one video a week. I think I've only missed 1 week, but I don't plan on missing any more weeks. So yeah, just an easy way to kind of find all the deck profiles that I posted. And when new cards come out, I will update those decks as well. So Dark Magician, one of my favorite decks in the game. It's not particularly fast. It's actually one of the slower decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's an awesome control deck. It kind of feels maybe similar to like the Weather Painters, probably just more consistent because you have more deck thinning power and more draw power. What I really like about Dark Magician is in back-to-back consecutive years, 2016 and 2017, the deck has gotten better and more consistent. Obviously, if you look at Dark Illusion, it was basically the Dark Magician set of 2016. We got things like Magician's Navigation, and we got Circle, which is basically like the heart and soul of the deck. Then in 2017, Konami gave us a lot of new support cards. They gave us Apprentice Illusion. We got the Dark Magician Knight, which profoundly helps the deck, especially protecting your Eternal Soul. And then we also got, little curveballs out of nowhere that people might not have expected, like me. We got Spellbook of Knowledge, which really helps because the entire deck is like spellcasters. So, the deck has just actually been improving just little by little. And I think it's one of the decks that is kind of under the radar. Also, a lot of this stuff got reprinted. So even though I'm about to blind you guys because I think almost everything in this damn deck is hollow except like Illusion Magic, the deck is actually not nearly as expensive as it actually looks. So let's go ahead and break down Dark Magician. Playstyle of this deck, somewhat similar to Battery Man. You're basically trying to set up turn one, but you don't really have pop-offs like Battery Man, so maybe that's not a great comparison. So 3 copies of Dark Magician to kick things off. You're always going to run Dark Magician at 3 in this deck. It's actually one of the reasons why I don't like Pot of Desires in this deck, because I found myself banishing my Dark Magicians too much. You generally want to have like 1 live at all times. If you want to run a lore, that's fine. Just don't banish too many of them because you need for them to constantly be summoned back for your circle, because that's like your primary way of removal. Now, I like to run just like different arts. My personal favorite is this guy right here, the Arcana Dark Magician. I was actually running the starter deck Yugi Dark Magician for a while, but when they released this one as a secret rare, I had to scoop that up. So 3 Dark Magician always. 3 copies of Apprentice Illusion. This card made the deck way better and more consistent. She's basically a card that not only tutors for your Dark Magician, so now you don't have such a reliance on cards like Illusion Magic. And I think even back in the day, I was running like 1 copy of Summoner Art, or Summoner's Art, yeah, to actually get my Dark Magician. But she not only tutors your Dark Magician, but then she's kind of like this little baby honest effect. If your opponent attacks into like any of your Dark spellcasters like Dark Magician or Rod or something like that, you basically can tribute her, and then that monster gains 2,000 attack. So she's essentially never a dead card. This is pretty much the only card you will ever special summon in your first turn. Dark Magician is notoriously known for not special summoning on its first turn. It is pretty much a setup deck, but this is that one card. And actually, one of the cooler things about her, and why running her at 3 is never a problem, is she can pitch Navigation to the graveyard, which can set up, because then your next turn, if you have a Dark Magician on the field, then you basically have a Dark Bribe from your graveyard. Or it's not really a Dark Bribe because your opponent doesn't draw, but you have some nice protection against whack stuff like Evenly Match. 3 copies of your best normal summon in the entire deck, Rod. You always want this card. Not only is Rod pretty much your best turn 1 normal summon, or really the best normal summon in this deck, but the fact that you can get it back from the graveyard by tributing a monster is really good, because a lot of times what you'll do is you'll like summon a Dark Magician off of like Navigation or off Eternal Soul or something like that. You have Rod in the graveyard, you end up tributing this monster, you still get the banish off of Circle, and then you get this guy that can basically just search another card, and it sets up usually like pretty nice, because even if your opponent tries to attack you, if you have an open field, a lot of times you have like Eternal Soul, you just bring your Dark Magician back, he absorbs an attack, and during your turn you just bring it back again, and you just kind of continue banishing. So these are all cards you're always going to run, always going to want to run 3 copies of. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this card, Dark Illusion. I decided to run 2. I know that some people decide to run like 1. When I was running Allure Darkness, I would constantly use this guy for like Allure fodder and whatnot. He counts as Dark Magician when he's on the field. You special summon it off a spell or trap or something like that during your opponent's turn, straight from your hand. Like, the biggest problem with this card, they could have made this card so much more playable if it would have counted as Dark Magician in the graveyard. Oh my god, this card would have been probably a 3 of, but you know, like, it's not a card you really want in your hand all that often. I know if you want to run 1 copy of it, that's fine. Like, my issue is when I only ran 1 copy of it, I felt like I hardly ever saw the card. Like, I have no problem pitching this with Illusion like Apprentice. So if you want to ditch it with that, that's fine. This is a card that does work, and also it does summon a Dark Magician back from your graveyard. So a lot of times this card, if you have Circle on the field, you summon it, you pop 1, then you activate its effect, you bring back your Dark Magician, and then you end up like banishing another. So you know, its ceiling is fairly high, but it's kind of a bricky card. I have 1 copy of the Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man. The Spellbook of Knowledge engine is just made for Dark Magician. Dark Magician has always struggled with one thing, and that's having really good normal summons. Like, really, historically, the only thing you've had is pretty much Rod as your only good normal summon. This gives the deck another good normal summon, and it gets it just, like, it gets it draw power, because your normal summon, if it's not going to be Rod, it's really not that important. So basically, get this, you know, maybe search your secrets, or, you know, search the Spellbook of Knowledge, draw more cards. Hopefully you can get to your combo pieces quicker. Having an empty field with Dark Magician really isn't a problem because you have Navigation, you have Eternal Soul. To special summon, you also have the Dark, what's it called? I'm forgetting the name. You have this guy that also special summons from the hand. All right, we got to run some hand traps, but not too many hand traps. So I run 3 copies of Ash Blossom and 1 Max C. I mean, every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh needs some form of disruption. Dark Magician, like, you want to be able to play to stop your opponent from being able to use like big cards. Cards like Pot of Desires are really big, stopping things like Card Demise. You can stop those same cards with Navigation, but I would rather use my Navigations for stuff that's going to try and get rid of my Eternal Soul. You know what I mean? I primarily want to stop those cards first. That's why things like Ash Blossom come in. Maxi is just pretty much staple. Like, Maxi, I would run that at 1 forever. However many Maxis we can run because of the ban list, that's how many I'm going to run. The Heart and Soul of the deck, Dark Magical Circle. This is your removal card, and a lot of times it's a nice +1. It also lets you kind of stack your deck in a certain order so you know what you're going to draw. But when you activate this card and you get a plus because you get like a Dark Magician or you get like a Navigation and you get to add it to your hand for free, that is the best feeling ever, because yeah, not only does it become a plus at that point, but this is the way that the deck kind of makes advantage. It's its main source of removal. If your opponent has monsters or cards on the field that can be targeted, just banish them with this. Anytime you summon a Dark Magician, you basically just get to do work. And then there are other cards like Dark Magical Knight that count as Dark Magician in this deck. So you're running 3 copies of this forever. I like to run 2 copies of Pot of Duality. It does conflict with Apprentice Illusion a little bit, but she's really the only turn 1 special summon that we run in the deck. And, you know, Dark Magician needs consistency cards, because for you to basically win with Dark Magician, you have to kind of assemble your combo. Your combo is, you know, like, obviously a Dark Magical Circle to constantly banish stuff. You have to have a Dark Magician to, you know, trigger your circle, and then you have to have Eternal Soul to constantly summon it back again and again. So it's a 3-card combo for this deck, and cards like this basically help. I do not run Pot of Desires because, you know, I don't like banishing my Dark Magicians. I don't like banishing any of the cards in this deck, to be honest. Like, even though you can run a lot of them, I just don't care. I don't want to banish any of them. I've had too many bad experiences with Pot of Desires where I banished 2 of my Dark Magicians. I can't exceed anymore, and it's just like, F that. I'm not willing to do it. So we run the Spellbook engine instead of the Pot of Desires. This is a really good engine because obviously if you normal summon your Blue Boy, it makes your normal summon a draw 2, and your whole deck is Spellcaster outside of the hand trap. So these cards thin your deck, they get you to your combo pieces quicker, and Dark Magician doesn't really have any draw support, and this just naturally fits in the deck. So this was kind of like a no-brainer for me. Let's go ahead and take those out. We run 1 copy of Illusion Magic, 1 copy of Dark Magic Attack, which is Feather Duster, so it's super nice, and then 1 copy of of Dark Inheritance. This card is, I mean, sometimes in the early game, it's not that good, but that's also why you have to run spells that can not only get you a card, but go to the graveyard immediately. Things like Pot of Duality. I think Illusion Magic is a really good one of another card where if you run Pot of Desires, you're going to banish it, and then it'll be too hard for you to get to your Dark Magicians. And this is like really, really a powerful card. You don't ever really want to draw this card. You always want to search it off Eternal Soul. If you do draw it, it is a little unfortunate, but you know, it's still a really strong card, and you don't want to run this deck without it. If you control a Dark Magician, you basically get Feather Duster, and it's really, really easy, and again, it's searchable, so you're going to run it. Aya Timaeus. Actually, I should have put that down with the other three. Aya Timaeus, it used to be pretty much terrible in this deck, but now that we have a fusion that is like just godly, I think that this card is worth running. You could possibly run two of Aya Timaeus, but like what I've learned is you don't want this card in your opening hand ever, and the fact that you can't get it off circle is really what makes it not really like all that good at two. If you could add it to your hand off of Dark Magical Circle, it would be so much better, but unfortunately, because of just rulings and the way stuff is worded, you can't add this off of this. So at one, it's good, you'll see it sometimes, but you don't need the Knight to win. Like, you don't want to open with this, and at two, it can be kind of bricky. So, you know, we just run one. 3 copies of the best trap card in the deck. This is the glue that holds this deck together. Even if you don't have Circle, you can still win off of this card. Like, if you don't have Circle, then what you need to be doing is you need to be trying to exceed. You need to be going into things like Draco Sack and Big Eye. You need to be going into rank 7 exceeds that have removal, because your Dark Magicians are completely expendable. It doesn't matter if they get torrentialed. Well, they're unaffected by card effects, but it doesn't matter if they get like attacked over or if you exceed with them, if you link summon with them. Your Dark Magicians are coming back anyways. Just don't lose this card. By all means, protect this effing card. And also, if your opponent sends this card back into your deck with like Castel, it will not blow up your field. It cannot activate in the deck. It has to be like, you know, it has to be banished, or it has to be like sent to the graveyard or something like that. So it's just a little important ruling to know. I learned that in 2016, I think, when Dark Illusion had just came out. 3 copies of Magician's Navigation. I think before I was only running 2, but now we have a really good discard outlet and Apprentice Illusion. Apprentice Illusion can just send this card to the graveyard. This card has one of the highest ceilings in the deck because you get 2 spellcasters and you get Spell and Trap Negation from your graveyard. So it's a really, really strong card. Right now, I would say run 3. If maybe you're not running like the 3 Apprentice Illusions, then probably run 2. But I don't know why you'd run just 2. Also, if you do decide to run Twin Twister, or you side that in, it's a good card to pitch. We run a little bit of Solemns, just basically. The Solemns are to try and cover everything that that Dark Magical Circle can't cover, because there are some ways that your opponent can kind of play around your Dark Magical Circle and trying to get to your Eternal Soul. For instance, if your opponent goes into Tornado Dragon, that's a card that has a quick effect. So even if you try to target Tornado Dragon with Circle, your opponent can just chain the Tornado Dragon. They can pop your Eternal Soul. And again, the whole point of this deck is to protect Eternal Soul at all costs. So, you know, the Solemns kind of help with that. Sometimes I don't like the life point attachment, which it kind of makes me want to maybe think about going for 3 Solemn Strikes and not running a Solemn Warning, but I don't know. I feel like just being able to like you know, stop all normal summons can be pretty helpful. So I feel like the Solemn Brigade is kind of fine right now. And then this card has always been used in Dark Magician. This is a card I personally like. Dark Magician does not need its effects to win. I mean, the damn Dark Magician is a vanilla monster. Basically, you're banishing stuff with Eternal Soul, so Skill Drain always is super good in this deck. I like Torrential Tribute. You guys might be noticing that I'm adding Torrential Tribute into a lot of my decks. People do not play around this card. People just link spam, and when they summon, they only think about things like Solemn. I'm telling you, nobody plays around this card. This card will punish like Scapegoat plays, and when your opponent goes for like really big plays, this card is really good. And even if you nuke your Dark Magicians, or you have to kill your Dark Magician Knight, it doesn't matter. You just bring them back with Eternal Soul. So I think this card has a lot of value in this deck. To the extra deck. So we've got the 2 fusions, which are Amulet Dragon and Dark Magician Knight. Definitely play this card. It gives you protection from like Cosmic Cyclone, Twin Twister, basically all targeting effects. If you get this on the field and your opponent doesn't have something like Evenly Matched, there's like almost no way that they can win. And if you have something like Navigation for Evenly Matched, basically the game's over. This card is incredibly difficult to attack over because it has 3k and you're going to be banishing something on their field every turn. The reason that I run this card, it's not like is that good or anything, but if you ever run into like one of those janky 60 card decks, or it's in the very late stages of the game, you might be able to get this guy super high. When you summon him, I think you banish spell cards from the graveyard. I think it's either player's graveyard. Let me just check right quick. Let me see. Banish target any number of spell cards in any graveyard. Yeah, and this guy gains 100 attack for each one. So in a late game, there could be a situation where you end up banishing like 14 spells and this guy like skyrockets. So it's a gimmicky play, but I feel like it's worth it. And then finally, what am I talking about? I'm only on the second type. To the Xyz, we have a couple of rank 3s. Magician's Rod is level 3, and then the hand traps, Ghost Ogre, or excuse me, I don't run Ghost Ogre. Ash Blossom are level 3. So I've always thought that a couple of level 3s are good, but you don't want to run that many. I think the best ones, kind of in a vacuum, are like the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, because you can pop your you can pop something like your Dark Magician on the field. You can pop one of your opponent's back row. You can bring your Magician right back. I think that Grand Pulse is good because it's just more in spell and trap removal in case your opponent is trying to stall or you need to take out multiple like back row in a turn. Now, what this deck really does best, which is the rank 7s. Flare Dragon is actually really good, especially if your opponent's life points are low. I'm telling you, a lot of times you'll get like 1500 burn damage from this card, which can be very relevant. Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack, it works under Skill Drain, which I really like. We play a copy of Big Eye as well. Solid card. Gaia Dragon, you don't really summon it that much, but I don't know, now that everybody's playing Scapegoats and stuff, I don't know, maybe it's actually kind of relevant. We play Ebon Illusion and Ebon High. Ebon Illusion was the only card that I used to run 2 of, but I don't really think you're ever going to need 2 of it in a duel anymore. Also because you have links now and you play fusions and stuff. Like, Ebon is probably the second best card in this extra deck. I think that Dark Magician Knight might be the best one because of its protection, but this card is amazing. Not only can it summon a Dark Magician straight from your deck, but when you attack with a normal monster, i.e. Dark Magician, then you get to basically negate that attack, and then you get to banish a card on your opponent's side of the field. So it's another card, it's another card that can basically have like a +2 during the turn that you summon it. This guy's okay. He lets you use quick play spells, and he lets you use like traps from your hand during your opponent's turn. I mean, it might be useful sometimes, but generally you're gonna go for him. And Gaia Dragon, again, is only for like Scapegoat cheese and stuff like that. Then to the link plays, we have Akashic Magician, because a lot of spellcasters in the deck. Link Spider, it could come up, hey, you give up one of your Dark Magicians for a Link Spider and then bring the Dark Magician back with Eternal Soul. That's honestly the only thing I can think of, but I do think it's worth playing. I know you're like, Cap, why would you give up a 2500 attack monster to go into a 1000 attack monster? If you only have one Dark Magician and you have Eternal Soul, it's worth it because your Eternal Soul is not going to get any value out of it just sitting on the field. So, go for the extra 1000. And then Firewall Dragon, I only use this because there may be some random time where like you might want to give up 2 Dark Magicians and some other random shit to go into this. And then finally, I'm using finally, right? These Synchros, and I run Leo because you can make Leo with Ash Blossom and Dark Magician, so it's a level 10. And then I run a level 6 if you happen to have Rod and an Ash Blossom. You can make Nathung. Nathung is actually really underrated. Not only does this card do 800 burn damage when you summon it, but then it makes one of your opponent's monsters lose 800 attack. And like that's 1600 damage potentially. So this card actually does a little bit of work. So let me know what you guys thought. If you think that there are any ways I can improve this deck, please leave it in the comment section below. These are just, my takes on the deck and how I am comfortable with running them. So whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already. Turn on that notification bell for daily videos.